Hi guys, I'm Joe Klemczewski here with Dr. Kori Propst back in the Diet Doc Life Mastery podcast. And we get to go over to Kori's world where we're going to talk about some psych issues. And I'm pretty excited about this one, Kori, because I think it's something that we never get away from. I think at different times of our life, it's an impact that always brings about some pain or some tugging in directions we're not comfortable, but it's living by other people's identities or values or trying to do what other people think we should do. It takes transitions and tough transitions to recognize and move away from that.
And Joe, to, I think, parse out what our personal identities are, and with the recognition that they're going to shift and change as we mature and grow and learn new things and become more aware of what's really important to us. So yeah, when I think about what a transition is, it's this period of time where we're really exploring some uncharted territory. That makes sense. There's some uncertainty there a lot of times, and there's this, I guess you could call it a reckoning of what is a potentially new and more updated version of ourselves. And so I'm working with this client who, she spent many years of her life competing in bodybuilding, in physique competition. And prior to that period of her life, she was a runner and really enjoyed that. And I'm unaware of the transition between running and bodybuilding, but she's transitioning out of bodybuilding now and picking running back up again. And she's finding that to be really difficult. And part of it that she's talked about with me is that people are asking her, but she still goes to the gym and she still loves lifting weights and resistance training. But people are asking her, do you compete? And when this happens, it leads to her feeling like because she looks like she could, that she feels like she should. And she feels bad for, quote unquote, giving up on it. And she starts to compare herself to people who do compete.
This sounds an awful lot like I'm asking for a friend, because I remember how difficult this was for you. This exact scenario of, here's Kori leg pressing 1,500 pounds. Here's Kori winning pro, championships. And then all of a sudden, I remember you like, I don't even think I like this. Should I compete? I know I could probably win a world championship. Maybe because I could, maybe I should. Yeah.
There was a lot of that ping-ponging back and forth in my mind about should I, shouldn't I, why not? Is it even something I want to do, or do I feel compelled to do it because other people say I could? And I remember us having the conversation, like, could I win a world championship? And, you were very honest with me, which I needed. Like, you weren't the type of coach who was going to say, absolutely, like you totally could. Well, yeah, the potential is there, but you've been there twice and you've gotten second place. I don't know if and when that would happen, but, at what cost are you willing to pursue this and continue down this path with all of the potential negative side effects that come with it? And so for me, Joe, and I'm glad you brought my personal experience up, because I did feel like when I made the decision, it happened in a way that felt more after the period of uncertainty and questioning and exploration and talking to other people, because you had transitioned out of it and had very specific reasons why. But that I had some level of closure around it, and like I planned the final competition, and I did that competition overseas, and I made it a week-long vacation, and I did it with a friend who was also, and this really helped me, who was also transitioning out of bodybuilding competition. So I had a connection with someone who was also moving in a different direction in her life and establishing literally a new identity around what was important to her and what she was going to be focusing on.
So if somebody, because I know, like I said, everybody deals with this at some level almost constantly. And I think of people who come out of the closet with sexual identity changes, or people come out of the closet with different belief systems, or they struggle. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and this American was over in some Middle Eastern countries talking about religion. And it's just interesting to hear how many people are harboring these lives and really wanting to be something else, but they're afraid that it's so encompassing of their identity that they just can't do it.
So yes, fear is a big thing for her, and she's mentioned this repeatedly. Like, the fear is very, very real. In situations like you're mentioning, we have this much more dynamic and intense, like, cultural side of things, to where, you know, if you're a person who is coming out of the closet for the first time, so to speak, like, there are many potentially negative things that could come down the pipeline. For someone in this case where so it feels very real for her. It's different, though. I hope that I'm not, like, minimizing her experience as opposed to this person's experience. But I think what it comes down to, Joe, in many cases, is us being willing to experiment with what it might be like to do and be something different, and to understand that we don't have to have just one identity. We can have multiple identities. And no, this is not like a DSM disorder. It's that there are a lot of things that are important to us and that we want to pursue and move into and discover and explore ourselves within and around. But so being willing to experiment and see what happens. So in this situation where she's in the gym and this person walks up to her and says, "Do you compete?" For her to just be able in that moment to notice what arises for her, you know, it's like she can feel herself tense up because there's this back and forth in her mind about, did I make the decision? Was this a wrong one? Should I be competing? Not judge it, but just notice it and use it as a cue for further exploration. Is this that person's belief and, you know, idealized version of this is a body that would be on stage? Like, it's almost like this is that person's association. You know, bodybuilding actually is not synonymous with getting on stage in a bikini at 5% body fat. So a lot of it too is it's reintegrating around language. She was steeped in this culture for a very long time. And I can relate personally to this too, because it still comes up for me. I've transitioned to cycling. Yep, I still train with weights twice a week. It's important to me. I love it. I don't do it because anyone tells me that I should, or to attain 5% body fat to get on stage. But it really I still notice thoughts that come up about leaner, lighter, less food. All of those different messages that you receive and integrate into the bodybuilding and competitive culture, that it no longer works for like an ultra endurance sport, does not jive. So noticing it, not judging it, and like we've talked about before, in those moments, not seeing the thought or the emotion that arises as a cue to, as a cue that we are like doing something wrong or following the wrong path through that transition, but to, oh, that's interesting. Like that's something to explore more around. Am I making sense? It's not a directive for her to get back into bodybuilding. It's to start recognizing the association she has from the bodybuilding.
I love that you're mentioning something that hints at it is a process. It's a transition. You don't have to rush things, because I think of the sunk cost bias.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned community.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you say, okay, this is what I used to do, or this is what I used to believe, or this is who I used to be, now I'm just going to take a 90-degree angle over here.
Yeah.
I'm fearful of losing a lot. I'm losing community, perhaps. I'm losing the respect of some people. Maybe, you know, that's a fear.
Sure.
And so to take your time to investigate, to think through it, to realize it is not probably going to be a catastrophe. And like you said, you can still integrate parts of that and have multiple facets of your identity. I will tell you, Kori, in some of the changes I've made, because you know, my personality traits and strengths used to be more toward the, oh gosh, foundational orderliness, neuroticism, just everything has to be exactly one way.
Mm-hmm.
And now, once that floodgate opened up toward being more open-minded and being a little
Flexible.
bit more exploratory,
yeah,
like I said, that was not an easy transition, but now it's almost tilted the other way, where I love this so much, I can't imagine having to go back to being so dogmatic.
I completely agree. There's this, as I transitioned out, there was a sense of freedom that came along with that, but getting there was also a process. I love that you brought up the sunk cost bias, because this is something, in not so many words, that she mentioned. She's like, I spent so many years and worked so hard to build muscle, to build the body that I have right now, that, you know, if I start running, the fear is there that I'm going to lose all of that. And okay, that the fear is valid. All right. That emotion is valid. I just kept thinking too. I looked up bodybuilding. I wanted to see what the definition was. So bodybuilding is, here, I'm going to give a few definitions. The development of the body through exercise and nutrition. Seems like running would classify as bodybuilding, right? The strenuous physical exercise to strengthen the muscles. My cycling, that's actually bodybuilding. The art and practice of exercising to develop the muscles of the body. What I wanted to help her kind of transition into was to understand that she has this association, and we can sever that association and create new associations that help her facilitate the sense of, like you said, freedom and flexibility and openness to enjoy this new endeavor. You know, she said, I went for a run the other, she joined a team. So she's working at this. The connection piece is really, really huge, like you said, too. What we often don't have in the bodybuilding world is a sense of connection, because we end up isolating ourselves and losing friendships and partnerships because we're not going out as much, and we get incredibly rigid. But now she does have a community, and she said she got done with this run the other day with her team. And for the first time in years, she noticed she was singing in the car as she was driving home. And I'm like, I felt so free reading that from her. That's profound.
That is a great place to finish, because I had the same just illustration in my mind pop up that it's like a butterfly, like coming out of a cocoon, in that once you get over the fear in the entanglement of feeling like you have to be part of an identity that you may have even liked at some point, that may have been useful.
Sure.
If you're okay with evolving and changing, there is so much more to enjoy.
Oh, I totally agree, Joe. And I'll just say this to end. I think that, we tend to make, and all of us tend to make this very common mistake, that when something feels foreign to us, uncertain, weird, call it whatever you want, we mistake it for being bad and wrong. And it's just different.
Yep.
So to be able to stand in that little bit of tension in the difference, connect with other people who might have had similar experiences for us and have come out successfully on the other side. And, yeah, that's like, that's what I got.
No, I was going to say that's why you are the best health psychologist in the world, just seeing that big picture. So thank you for that, Kori. And for you guys listening in, I think this is a really, really profound thing to consider, because like I said when we opened up, I doubt there's anybody listening that doesn't feel some tension in some part of our lives almost constantly, because life is very dynamic, and we can just feel like we have to stay somewhere that we don't want to stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So awesome stuff, Kori. And thank you guys for watching and listening. We will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.